everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're diving into the world of silent commands for Cane Corsos, specifically from a podcast episode that a listener sent in. And joining me is someone who can break down the how and the why.
Excited to be here.
So, using only hand signals with your dog? I mean, it sounds pretty cool.
It is.
But why is it especially useful with Cane Corsos?
Well, Cane Corsos are guardian dogs. They're big and powerful, really protective of their families. So silent communication, especially in situations when you need a quick response, could be really valuable.
That makes sense. I hadn't thought about it like that. So you're saying, like, if there's a tense situation,
Exactly.
a hand signal could be way better.
Yeah, like imagine you're at a crowded park or something, and your Corso senses, a potential threat. A verbal command could actually escalate the situation,
Right.
But, a subtle hand signal could really help you manage things calmly and effectively.
That's a really good point. It's like having a secret language with your dog that helps you stay in control and keeps everyone around you safe.
And the thing is, as your Cane Corso gets older, they might experience some hearing loss, right?
Oh, that's true.
Hand signals can be a lifeline, for maintaining communication with them as they age.
It makes their training useful for, their whole life.
Their whole life, yeah.
Wow, I'm already sold on this idea. So the podcast episode mentioned some specific signals, like an open palm raised from your waist to your shoulder for sit, a palm down movement from your shoulder to your side for down, and, my favorite, the wiping motion for leave it. Can you imagine a Cane Corso trying to figure that one out?
I know, right? But dogs are super visual, especially breeds like Cane Corsos, So that wiping motion is actually really clever because it's like mimicking the action of pushing something away.
Oh, I see.
So you're visually representing the concept of leave it. They're not just hearing it, they're seeing it too.
Right, so we're helping them understand by giving them a visual cue along with the command. That makes a lot of sense. Now, what about heel? They said to pat your left hip for that one. Why the left hip and not the right?
That's a good question. I think it's likely because we use our right hand for so many other things.
Like shaking hands or pointing, right?
Right, exactly. So keeping heel on the left side, it's like creating a distinct signal. Reduces the chance of your dog getting mixed signals.
That's really smart. Okay, so we've got a few examples of what the signals look like, but how do we actually teach them to our Cane Corsos?
Well, the podcast suggested starting with commands they already know. I think that's a great strategy.
So commands they already know using verbal cues.
Exactly.
And pair that with the hand signal at the same time.
Yeah, you're basically building a bridge between what's familiar and what's new, right?
Okay, so I would say sit and then do the hand signal for sit at the same time.
Yeah, that's it. Your Cane Corso starts to connect the dots.
Me.
And then, as they begin to associate the hand signal with the action, you can gradually start to phase out the verbal command.
That's really interesting. It's a much more gradual process. Now, Cane Corsos are known for being really intelligent, but also independent.
Yes, very much so.
So I imagine that might present some unique challenges when it comes to training them with hand signals, right?
You're right. Their independent nature, might require us to get a little creative to keep them engaged and focused during training.
Okay, I like where this is going. So let's talk about that. What are some specific challenges we might face, and how can we overcome them?
Okay, well, first we have to remember that Cane Corsos, have really strong protective instincts. And they need really clear communication to feel, secure and confident.
And if they're getting mixed signals?
It can create anxiety, make them less likely to obey. So consistency is key.
Especially with Cane Corsos.
Especially with this breed, yeah.
So it's not just about teaching them a cool trick. It's about building trust and understanding between you?
Exactly. It's a partnership.
But how do we ensure that consistency with hand signals? I can see myself messing up the hand motions.
It happens. I think one helpful tip is to actually write down the hand signals for each command.
Okay.
That way you have a reference. And everyone in the house is on the same page, so you don't have one person doing one signal.
That's brilliant. I never would have thought of that. What about keeping them engaged during training? Cane Corsos are smart and might get bored easily.
You're right. Short, focused training sessions are really important instead of one long session,
Break it up into smaller chunks.
Yeah, break it up into little fun, dynamic sessions throughout the day.
And keep it positive, right?
Always positive. Lots of praise, treats, maybe even some fun games.
Yeah, so make it a rewarding and fun experience for both of you.
Exactly.
So it sounds like teaching hand signals is about way more than just obedience. It's really about understanding your Cane Corso's personality, building a connection through good communication.
You got it. And that's especially important with Cane Corsos.
Okay, so we've talked about why hand signals are so beneficial, what some of them look like, and how to approach training with a cane corso who might be independent. Are there any specific tips for teaching the hand gestures themselves?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is clarity. When you're first introducing a new signal, make your movements big and obvious like you're on stage.
Yeah.
As they get the hang of it, you can gradually make your movements smaller and more subtle.
So start big, and then as they get better, I can make the signals smaller.
Exactly.
Does the training environment matter?
Absolutely. When you're first starting out, choose a low distraction environment like your living room. As your Corso gets the hang of it, you can gradually add in more distraction.
Okay, so start simple, then add distraction.
Yeah, just like with any kind of training, really.
Hand signals seem like a really powerful tool, but it's not about replacing verbal commands completely, right?
No, it's more about having options and choosing the right tool for the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're in a library or somewhere, you need your dog to be quiet.
Or if they're far away.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're not saying to never use verbal commands again.
Not at all. Sometimes a good old-fashioned sit is just what you need.
It's all about being adaptable, knowing when to use each type of communication.
Right. It's about what works best in each situation.
This is great. I'm feeling a lot more confident about incorporating hand signals into my Cane Corso's training. Is there anything else you want to add before we move on to part 2?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that this isn't just about teaching your dog cool tricks. It's about, strengthening the bond you have by understanding each other better.
I love that. So it's about going beyond words and connecting with your Cane Corso on a deeper level.
Exactly.
I like to think of it like tapping into a really ancient nonverbal language that strengthens the connection between humans and dogs.
I love that. It's beautiful.
Well, this has been a really insightful start to our deep dive. Before we move on to part 2, I want to encourage all of you listening. Think about how you can use hand signals to enhance the bond with your Cane Corso. Could this be the key to understanding your dog even better?
It really is. One of the things I find fascinating is how hand signals tap into the evolutionary history of dogs.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about it. Before dogs were domesticated, they relied heavily on body language to communicate with each other, right?
Right.
Like coordinating hunts, establishing their social hierarchies, expressing their emotions. It was essential.
So when we use hand signals, we're kind of like speaking their ancient language.
Exactly. We're speaking a language that's already ingrained in their DNA. It's a form of communication that feels, natural and intuitive to them.
Especially for a breed like the Cane Corso.
Especially for intelligent and perceptive breeds like Cane Corsos.
It's incredible. It's like we're unlocking this hidden communication channel.
That's a great way to put it.
That's been there all along.
And I think that's why, so many dogs respond so well to hand signals. It's like it resonates with them on a much deeper level.
It's not just about, giving commands. It's about understanding.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we talked about the importance of consistency. Are there any other common mistakes people make when teaching hand signals? Things we should, watch out for?
I think one of the biggest mistakes is, well, like we said, inconsistency. Sometimes people use the hand signal, sometimes they say the command, or they use, slightly different hand motions for the same command.
Oh, so the dog is getting mixed signals.
Exactly. And remember, we're trying to create clear communication,
Mm-hmm.
so we have to be consistent. I think that tip about writing down the signals is really helpful.
Yeah, having that cheat sheet for dog communication, that's great.
Yeah, and another mistake I see is expecting the dog to learn overnight. Just like with any new skill, it takes time, it takes patience, repetition.
And every dog learns at their own pace.
Exactly. Some dogs might pick up hand signals right away, others might need a little more time and practice.
Right.
The important thing is to be patient and, positive.
Keep it a bit fun.
Keep it fun, yeah, for both of you.
That's a good reminder. Sometimes I catch myself getting impatient.
I think we all do.
So we've been talking about Cane Corso specifically, but do you think hand signals are good for all dogs, or are there some breeds that, benefit more from them?
I think any dog can learn hand signals, to be honest. But some breeds might be, naturally better at it.
Oh, interesting.
Cane Corsos, with their intelligence, their focus, they're really good at reading body language.
Right.
So tend to be quick learners. But, other breeds known for their intelligence, like German Shepherds, Border Collies, Poodles, they also tend to do well with hand signals.
So it's not just about the breed, but also the individual dog's personality and how they learn?
Exactly. Some dogs are visual learners, others are more auditory.
It's like everybody learns a little differently.
Exactly.
You mentioned earlier that it's important to start training in a low distraction environment. Can you give us some more specific examples of what that might look like?
Sure. So, when you're first teaching a new hand signal, you want to choose a place where your Corso can really focus on you. So this could be, your living room, a quiet corner of the backyard.
Okay, somewhere calm and quiet.
Exactly. And then as they start to get it, you can gradually add distractions.
Like move to the park or a busier area?
Yeah, exactly. But you want to start simple.
Okay, that makes sense. And how do we know when it's time to make it more difficult, to add those distractions?
Well, you can kind of gauge it based on how well they're doing. Like if they're consistently responding correctly to the hand signal in a quiet environment, then you can start to, slowly introduce those distractions.
And what about when they're doing really well? Like, do we need a signal to tell them they can stop focusing on the training?
That's a good point. It's helpful to have a release cue. So you could say, okay or free, just something to let them know they did a good job and can relax.
That's a good idea. I like that. Okay, so we've talked about starting in a low distraction environment and gradually increasing the difficulty. Is there anything else to keep in mind as we, move through the training?
I think it's important to remember that, Cane Corsos, as smart as they are, can be a little sensitive to corrections.
Yeah.
So if you're, harsh or inconsistent, it can damage their confidence.
So keep it positive.
Yes, always positive. Focus on rewarding the behaviors you want to see. And when you do need to correct, do it gently.
Right.
Redirect them back to the behavior you want. It's about, working together.
Yeah, it's not about forcing them to do something.
It's
It's about being a team.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to, get creative. Cane Corsos thrive on mental stimulation. So incorporate games and puzzles into your training sessions.
Like hide and seek with treats.
That's a great one. Or you could, set up little obstacle courses.
Oh, that's a good idea.
The key is to, find activities that your Corso enjoys that challenge them both mentally and physically.
I love that. This is giving me so many ideas.
That's great to hear. And remember, this is a journey. The more we learn about our dogs and how they think, the better we can communicate with them and the deeper our bond becomes.
This has been so helpful. I feel like I'm really starting to understand how to communicate with my Cane Corso on a whole new level. Any final tips for maximizing success with hand signal training?
Be patient, be observant, and, really try to understand your Cane Corso's individual needs.
Yeah.
Because every dog is unique, right? What works for one might not work for another.
Right.
So don't be afraid to experiment. Adapt your approach. And, most importantly,
have fun.
Have fun.
That's great advice. I love that. It's amazing to think how much our Cane Corsos already understand us without us even saying a word.
It really is. Dogs are so perceptive. They pick up on everything, our tone of voice, our facial expressions, even tiny changes in our body language.
They really do seem to have a sixth sense. And with Cane Corsos, it's like their sensitivity is dialed up to 11.
Oh, absolutely. Cane Corsos are known for being incredibly loyal and intuitive. They're really good at sensing their owner's moods. They're empathetic dogs,
Yeah.
That's what makes them such amazing companions.
It's like they just get us. And that's why I think this whole idea of hand signals is so cool. We're acknowledging their ability to understand us on a nonverbal level, It's like we're meeting them halfway.
Exactly. We're tapping into a communication style that's already so natural for them.
Instead of just relying on words, which, let's face it, dogs don't always understand perfectly.
Right. Hand signals are clear, they're direct, and there's something dogs have been using to communicate with each other for centuries.
It's like we're unlocking a secret language that strengthens the bond between us. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I have a little challenge for everyone listening. Over the next few days, I want you to really observe your Cane Corso.
Oh, I like this.
Pay attention to their body language, their little cues, how they react to your movements. You might be surprised by how much they're already trying to tell you.
I agree. The more we observe our dogs, the more we understand their unique ways of communicating.
And the stronger that bond becomes.
Exactly.
You might even discover some hand signals that your Cane Corso is already using.
It's an ongoing journey of discovery, for sure.
This has been such a great conversation. I feel like I've learned so much about the power of nonverbal communication and about the amazing bond we share with our Cane Corsos.
Me too. It's been a pleasure.
So, to everyone listening, keep exploring those nonverbal connections with your Cane Corsos. You might be amazed by what you discover. And that's it for this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, happy training.